I would more so be willing to talk about how the community needs to have faith and continue to work together and not make these false accusations, like the things that have been said, that I've disappeared from the community. I haven't been there to help, but there's lots of reasons behind that. Oh yes, wow. The rumors have gotten so bad. I pretty much have been told at least 10 different ways that these people have these conspiracy theories. I guess they watch a lot of law shows and maybe they have all these theories on how Gannon is dead, and that's what they're saying. So I'm like, why are you saying Gannon is dead? He is not dead. We are going to find Gannon. I hope, am I on camera now?
You are still.
Okay. I think that a lot of people can see that I'm not missing and see that I am being cooperative. And
what's up, iCkEdMeL? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for stopping by. This is a crazy story, and it's a video that I'm doing in preparation for the trial on Monday. This has a whole bunch of details about Letecia Stauch, a woman accused of killing her stepson, but there's just so much craziness and twists and turns. So buckle up. Viewer discretion is advised for this content because it's going to be talking about a murder. And check out my partner, DataSeal, a service that I use to protect myself. If you haven't seen all these people online being doxxed, all kinds of crazy stuff all over the place, it's a service that I recommend. I've used services like this before in the past. I'm using DataSeal now. It's the only way to go if you're online to protect you and your family. Something as easy as your phone number and email address. They can pull up your address, your family's address, names, everything. Your information is being sold by data brokers all the time. It's easy for anybody to look up your information using people search websites. They can find your home address, date of birth, email address, phone number. DataSeal.io is the data removal and monitoring service I trust to remove my information from the internet. Click the link below and use the code 5OFFALL to save 5% off your DataSeal subscription. We're going to get into the probable cause affidavit for Letecia Stauch. This is the stepmother to Gannon Stauch. He was 11 years old at the time. She's being charged with his death. This is a 32-page probable cause affidavit, which I'm going to try to stick to the meat and potatoes, but there's a lot of information on here. And so the officer is Jessica Bethel, and she's also using resources from the FBI, Special Agent Andrew Cohen, and Special Agent David Donati. And so the affiant submits the following facts that demonstrate probable cause to believe that on or about January 27, 2020, in the El Paso County, the state of Colorado, the defendant Letecia Stauch, also known as Letitia Harden, did commit the following offenses: murder in the first degree, child under 12, child abuse resulting in death, tampering with deceased human body, tampering with physical evidence. Much of this affidavit was prepared by Special Agent Cohen. The vast array of investigative techniques in this investigation has produced a voluminous amount of evidence in support of the requested warrant. Investigators have executed physical search warrants and collected evidence from vehicles associated with Letecia, cellular devices utilized by Letecia, and from the residence of Letecia. Electronic search warrants have been executed to the entities included but not limited to Facebook, Apple Inc., Google Inc., AT&T Wireless, Verizon Wireless, ADT Security System, Tile, Life360, Yahoo, Ring doorbell service, and some of the physical evidence has been examined by a laboratory for DNA profiles. Investigators also recovered a significant amount of exterior video footage from individual privately owned neighborhood security cameras, businesses around Colorado Springs, Colorado, and cameras in other surrounding areas. Some cameras provided recorded footage of the exterior of the Stauch residence. Historical cellular records and historical site details were analyzed. And this kind of makes me think of the whole thing where that neighbor had the video footage. There's been video released of the vehicle coming back and forth the day of that is believed that Gannon was killed. This part here, which is really good because it has the makeup of the family. It says here facts in support of the probable cause, the Stauch family, and general information. The Stauch family is a blended family, and all will be discussed at various points below. This representation purposely has little details in order to give an overview of the family structure. So you have the father, Eugene Al Stauch, stepmother, Letecia Stauch, daughter, Harley Hunt, son, Gannon. This is the one that's deceased and was murdered. You have the daughter, Elena Stauch.
I love you, Baba.
And then the relations to them. So Harley is blood related to Letecia, but not the father, Eugene, not Al. Gannon is blood related to Al, but now Letecia, that's her stepson. And then Lena is blood related to Al, but now Letecia. Okay. Now, the following vehicles will be discussed at various points below. Red Nissan Frontier, this is Mr. Stauch's main vehicle. Black Volkswagen Tiguan, that's Letecia's main vehicle. You got the white Volkswagen Jetta, that's Harley's main vehicle. And then you have a silver Nissan Altima, a rental car obtained by Letecia's aunt, Brenda Ackward, and utilized by Letecia from January 30th through February 1st, 2020, after her Tiguan was seized by EPSO on January 29th, 2020. We also have a white Kia Rio, which is a rental car obtained by Letecia between January 28th and January 29th, 2020. Now, background of those mentioned in this affidavit: Letecia Stauch, aka Letecia Harden, is the last person known to investigators to see 11-year-old Gannon Stauch alive. Letecia is Gannon's stepmother and was Gannon's only known adult supervision in the days preceding and on the day of his murder. At the time of Gannon's murder, Letecia was employed by School District 20 as an assistant teacher. How crazy is that, right? Although I have also learned that she is no longer employed there. I was able to locate her prior criminal history for Letecia and learn that in the North Carolina Robeson County court case, Letecia was convicted after a trial for communicating threats, a misdemeanor, but I was not able to locate her sentencing information. Letecia was also convicted of unauthorized use of a motor vehicle in Robeson County court case and was sentenced to 45 days confinement and 18 months probation. Although not criminal in nature, I was able to locate a document memorializing the suspension of Letecia's North Carolina teaching certificate on or about May 11, 2016. As part of that document, it is reported that Letecia had filed unsubstantiated claims of harassment and retaliation, and the North Carolina State Board found that Ms. Stauch breached her contract by engaging in unprofessional conduct, willfully neglecting her duty, and failing to comply with the provisions of her contract. Letecia's criminal history is only included by way of background for the court, and because Letecia has been convicted of previous crimes, it is not meant to indicate guilt of the violations or to be considered as the sole basis of probable cause for the requested warrant. Eugene Stauch, aka Al Stauch, is Gannon's biological father and is married to Letecia Stauch. Mr. Stauch was deployed with the National Guard during the dates of January 25th, 2020 to January 28th, 2020. And so the 27th is when it's believed Gannon was killed. So this woman does what she does allegedly while this guy's out deployed. Mr. Stauch spent the night in Denver on January 25th, 2020 and departed via commercial airline on January 26th, 2020, returning via commercial airline on January 28th, 2020. Investigators were able to corroborate this information, and Mr. Stauch has cooperated fully in the below investigation. Summary of multi-agency missing person investigation in Colorado. Of note, and in some portions of this affidavit, depending on the date of the events being discussed, the investigation may be referred to as a missing person investigation or murder investigation. For the purposes of this affidavit, they are indeed one and the same. The subsequent information primarily surrounds the period of Monday, January 27, 2020 to Wednesday, January 29, 2020. Investigators have taken independent steps to corroborate information received throughout the investigation, and in most circumstances have video footage, cellular communication, and location records, security system records, or other records to support the below claims. The summary section is only meant to give the court an overview of the investigation, and the facts supporting the summary will be articulated below. On January 27, 2020, at or about 6:55 p.m., Letecia Stauch reported Gannon missing after calling 911. During that 911 call, she was instructed to call El Paso County non-emergent line. In summary, Letecia stated Gannon was supposed to be home approximately 1 hour ago and that she was unable to locate him at his friend's house. Her story dramatically changed multiple times over the following days. As will be discussed below, investigators do not believe Letecia went to any neighboring houses to attempt to locate Gannon, and was one of many lies told by Letecia during the investigation. Letecia was unable to provide the actual location of the home she went to, the names of Gannon's friends he was supposed to be playing with, or the names of the parents of Gannon's friends. Deputies responded to Letecia's residence at 6627 Mandan Drive, Colorado Springs, Colorado, and were unable to locate Gannon. Deputies conducted a limited search of the residence and took a report from Letecia. Some of the interactions between the responding deputies and Letecia were captured on body-worn camera. A missing person investigation was initiated and in the coming days developed into a murder investigation. A tip line was established and investigators received hundreds of tips and leads from the public by virtue of emails and telephone calls. As part of the tip line, 2 ransom notes were received by email demanding money in the form of Bitcoin in exchange for Gannon's return. Investigators took steps to validate these ransom notes, including resolving and geolocating the internet protocol addresses from the email headers and requesting subscriber information from the internet service providers that hosted those IP addresses. One of these ransom notes was sent from a foreign-based email account that is accessible by multiple individuals. So a lot of times these people will be like in one of these cafes where multiple people are accessing, or maybe a library or something like that. Investigators were unable to trace the user of the IP addresses and believe the ransom notes to be fraudulent and strictly designed as a scheme to receive money, which we've talked about that before. Even the FBI has addressed this, that like a lot of the times when somebody goes missing, there'll be these people online that'll come in there and claim that they have the person, and you'll get them back if you send us money. Letecia initially claimed that she last saw Gannon on January 27, 2020, when he left their residence to play with his friends somewhere around 3:15 p.m. Based on the facts outlined below and Letecia's statement to EPSO dispatcher, Letecia is the last person that ever saw Gannon alive. Letecia stated she attempted to find him at a neighbor's house and sent her daughter Haley to look for Gannon at a park. Letecia lied to investigators on multiple occasions, has unexplained abnormal behaviors such as obtaining a rental car, disconnecting her cell phone from the cellular network for an extended period of time, the false reporting of alleged abnormal patterns of travel, and a continuously evolving story with material changes in facts and circumstances, and has since left the state of Colorado. These actions, when combined with other facts in this affidavit, support the totality of probable cause for the requested warrant and will be discussed below. The murder of Gannon Stauch. The following section will outline what investigators have learned about Letecia's activity on January 27, 2020, and outline the period when Gannon was likely murdered. Some of the information contained in the section below will be repeated in other portions of this affidavit or discussed later in more detail. Additionally, there are evidence sources that are mentioned here but not fully defined in the other sections. Investigators believe that Gannon was murdered by Letecia in the afternoon hours after approximately 2:14 p.m. on January 27, 2020 at his residence, and more specifically in his bedroom. Physical evidence recovered from the residence and inside Gannon's bedroom supports that a violent event occurred in his bedroom, which caused bloodshed, including blood spatter on the walls and enough blood loss to stain his mattress, soak through the carpet pad, and stain the concrete below his bed. Wow. Some photographs of this evidence are included below. Based on the evidence recovered from the residence, Gannon's remains were eventually brought through the house into the garage and likely loaded into the back of Letecia's Volkswagen Tiguan. After cleaning the murder scene, Letecia utilized the Tiguan to transport and dump Gannon's remains on the evening of January 28, 2020. Letecia likely disposed of his remains off Highway 105 South, Perry Park Road in Douglas County, Colorado. Indeed, the Metro Crime Laboratory determined that blood discovered in Gannon's bedroom and Stauch's garage and blood on a piece of particle board located off Highway 105 South Perry Park Road all matched his DNA profile. On Monday, January 27, 2020, Gannon Stauch stayed home from school. Based on text messages from Letecia to Mr. Stauch, Gannon was up most of Sunday evening with a stomach problem. Letecia did tell Gannon's school, Grand Mountain Elementary, that Gannon would be absent on Monday. Investigators were able to verify that Gannon was marked as an excused absence that day. Letecia also told Al that, "I'm just going to give them an excuse at work and stay home with him." Indeed, Letecia did come up with an excuse and told her employer via text message at or about 4:37 a.m. that her stepdad, was killed after being hit by a car, and she would not be able to come to work that day. Extreme call out makeup excuse. Other electronic evidence such as time and date stamped photographs and videos were recovered from Letecia's cellular telephone that indicate Gannon was likely still alive during the morning of January 27, 2020. As displayed on paragraph 54 below, images were taken on Letecia's cell phone at or about 8:13 a.m. and 8:17 a.m. on the morning of January 27, 2020, showing Gannon sleeping in his bed. Of particular note, his Nintendo Switch, a small video game console, is visible in the photo lying next to him on the bed. Mr. Stauch has said that his gaming system was of high importance to Gannon. So the console was literally in the bed with him. That's how much he, enjoyed. But Nintendo Switch is like a handheld thing. To date, investigators have been unable to locate the Nintendo Switch. It should also be noted that Letecia used her phone the following day, January 28, 2020, at or about 12:57 p.m. to conduct a Google search. Can Nintendo find my Switch? Wow. This is also detailed in a list of some of her search history in paragraph 141, and reasonably occurred because she was contemplating how she would dispose of the Switch. I conducted a Google search for the term "Can Nintendo find my Switch?" and learned that Switch does not come with any sort of tracking ability. As such, Letecia likely felt it was safe to dispose of the Switch and used the missing Switch to help deceive law enforcement in searching for Gannon as a possible runaway. Ultimately, investigators located video surveillance from a neighbor's surveillance camera that showed what investigators believed to be Letecia and an individual that appeared to match Gannon's physical description depart their residence in the Nissan Frontier at or about 10:16 a.m. on January 27, 2020. The video camera is several homes away and does not provide images clear enough to make positive identifications of those captured in the recording. The vehicle returned at or about 2:19 p.m. and Letecia exited the vehicle. After viewing the video, I cannot be sure if another person exited the vehicle or not, but I submit Gannon likely did return home with Letecia that afternoon. These times, corroborated by data collected from the ADT security system installed in Stauch's residence, are discussed below in more detail. Based on data returned from the Stauch's ADT security system, the motion detectors in the living room or basement did not register any activity from approximately 10:12 a.m. until Letecia and Gannon entered the home at approximately 2:22 p.m. Investigators confirmed Lena to be at school and confirmed that Harley was at work. As such, investigators believe there was likely nobody else in the residence except for Letecia and Gannon. This woman planned this thing meticulously, and it's insane to think that she's planning this stuff while all these kids, you got this one at school, you got Harley at work, and you're trying to fit a murder into a time frame where there's going to be people in the house. As such, investigators believe there was likely nobody else in the residence except Letecia and Gannon. Letecia's historical cell site information, detailed information about her iPhone status, and a text message sent to Harley from Gannon's cell phone support that Letecia left her cell phone at the Stauch residence the morning of January 27, 2020. Must be to throw off police. The fact that Letecia left her phone at home is suspicious on its own based on her history of extensive use of the phone. And we've seen, with the Alec Murdaugh trial, that they'll use your history against you to be like, this is completely out of this person's character. I have reviewed forensic search records from Letecia's phone and found she is an active user of social media, including but not limited to Facebook and Instagram. A more detailed review of Letecia's iPhone screen time log between January 25th, 2020 at 8 a.m. and January 29th, 2020 at 11 a.m. revealed that Letecia spent approximately 38,607 seconds on Facebook and Facebook Messenger alone, which equates to 10.7 hours of cumulative time over those few days. Letecia's telephone was locked at or about 9:56 a.m. on January 27, 2020, and unlocked at 2:45 p.m. right on the same day, all those hours. The timing of the unlocking of the device is significant as compared to her departure and arrival to/from the residence, and should be noted by the court. Particularly, Letecia did not open her phone for approximately 30 minutes after she arrived back to the residence. Interesting. On January 27, especially after all those hours, right? On January 27, 2020, there was a message sent from Gannon's phone to Harley's phone that reads, "Tisha left phone at home. If you need her, text me." This message was sent at about 10:37 a.m. Again, let me get that again. On January 27, 2020, there was a message sent from Gannon's phone to Harley's phone, the older sibling, that reads, "Tisha left phone at home. If you need her, text me." The message was sent at 10:37 a.m. Investigators were able to confirm, based on video surveillance footage and purchase receipts, that Letecia traveled to Petco, located at 5020 North Nevada Avenue, Colorado Springs, Colorado. This Petco was approximately 22 miles from the residence and is an approximately 30-minute drive based on Google Maps directions. The receipt shows that Letecia completed her purchase at or about 11:22 a.m. Gannon is not visible on any of the surveillance video obtained by Petco. And that's at 11:22 a.m. Did she leave him in the car? What's up with that? Letecia's whereabouts are unknown between approximately 11:22 a.m. and 1:22 p.m. At 1:22 p.m., Letecia was again captured on video surveillance making a second purchase at the same Petco on North Nevada Avenue. Mr. Stauch sent a text message to Gannon's cell phone at or about 12:06 p.m. that read, "Hey, buddy." This message was unanswered until 1:21 p.m. The response was, "Can I play Zelda at least?" Mr. Stauch replied, "Not today." A significant event occurred on Gannon's cell phone at or about 1:43 p.m., which is prior to arriving back at the Stauch residence. There was an internet search for, "Can my parent find my cell phone if it's off?" So she's over here planning like he ran away and went on his own to disappear. I submit that this internet search was likely conducted by Letecia on Gannon's phone and not Gannon himself. Based upon the content of the search, the way the search terms are phrased, and the presence of a period punctuation in between phone and if, this is very similar to the way Letecia conducted searches on her phone. However, I located other internet searches with a period in Gannon's search history, which I also reasonably believe were conducted by Letecia. A more detailed explanation of Letecia's search history is included below in paragraph 141. Furthermore, the search term was parent, singular. I submitted it reasonable that Mr. Stauch only, not Letecia, would be interested in the location of Gannon's phone, and that Letecia possibly deliberating on how or if she would dispose of Gannon's phone after she murdered him. I conducted the Google search of "Can my parent find my cell phone if it's off?" and learned that the first answer returned in the search engine reads, "The answer to your question that depends on what method is being used to track your location." Gannon's phone was found at the residence. I submit that Letecia did not get rid of Gannon's phone for fear it might be traceable. The Nissan Frontier returned to the Stauch residence at or about 2:20 p.m. A search warrant authorized by this court was executed on the Nissan Frontier and found no indications of blood inside the vehicle. Letecia had been without her cell phone for hours, yet her screen was not unlocked until approximately 2:45 p.m., which was about 25 minutes after arriving at the residence. During that 25-minute period, there is motion activity both upstairs and downstairs on the ADT records. Lena returned home from school at about 3:15 p.m. During a recorded forensic interview with investigators, Lena stated that when she returned home, Letecia told her Gannon was asleep in her bedroom and that she could not see him. Letecia told Lena to go outside and play. I submit that Lena was sent outside because Gannon was likely dead, and Letecia was cleaning up blood from inside the house. At or about 3:55 p.m., Mr. Stauch sent another message to Gannon's phone. Hey buddy, this message was not read until 7:40 p.m. It is likely that Gannon was already murdered by Letecia at the time Mr. Stauch sent the message. Based on exterior video footage, Harley arrived at the residence in her white Volkswagen Jetta at or about 4:42 p.m. and picked up Lena. At or about 4:52 p.m. on January 27, 2020, Letecia sent a text message to Harley requesting a carpet cleaner, trash bags, and baking soda. These items were likely used to clean up the murder scene. This woman is sick. Harley purchased these items, and investigators located a receipt documenting the purchase. Harley Hunt has refused to speak with investigators. Interesting. Investigators do not believe Harley was present when Gannon was killed. Harley was at work on January 27, 2020 from 8:30 a.m. to 4:15 p.m., and investigators were able to verify this with her employer. To be clear, investigators have not located any evidence that any other person other than Lena and Letecia had access to Gannon between 10 a.m. and 5:34 p.m. on January 27, 2020. Statements and images captured on body camera on January 27, 2020. Your affiant has reviewed body-worn camera, BWC, footage and reports obtained from a deputy that responded to 6627 Mandan Drive, the residence from the Stauch family. After responding, Letecia provided verbal consent for deputies to search the house for Gannon. By the way of the timeline, EPSO patrol responded at or about 10:09 p.m., approximately 3 hours after Letecia called 911. That's a long time, right? From the body-worn camera, I learned that the Volkswagen Tiguan, known to be leased and utilized by Letecia, was backed into the garage when EPSO was at the residence. The position of the Tiguan in the garage is significant, specifically because of the confirmed presence of Gannon's blood in the garage below the area where the rear hatch of the Tiguan would be, and the positive reaction to the Blue Star Regent indicating likely presence of blood on the Tiguan's rear bumper. Responding deputies also searched in Gannon's basement bedroom, and I have viewed images of Gannon's bedroom taken from the body-worn camera. Below, I have included body-worn camera image of Gannon's bedroom on the left. On the right, an image recovered from Letecia's cell phone after executing a search warrant that was applied for and granted by this court. These images both represent the condition of Gannon's bedroom on January 27, 2020 at or about 8:13 a.m. and just after 10 p.m. The photo comparison is significant for many reasons, and the corner of the bedroom where Gannon's head is visible is the key area discussed in several sections below. See the right image taken below at 8:13 a.m. The placement of Gannon's bed is in the immediate location where his blood, based on DNA profile results, was found on the wall, the carpet, and the concrete below the carpet. These details are discussed below, and a large volume of blood appears to be in that area. For the purposes of comparison between the images, it appears that although the sheet may or may not be the same, the blankets are different and the pillowcase, if not the whole pillow, is different. I submit that a logical explanation for the missing bedding is that they likely were saturated in blood after Gannon's murder and were removed by Letecia to clean up the murder scene. Furthermore, investigators were unable to locate the bedding in the Stauch residence during any of the approximately 5 searches of the residence. Another photo received from Letecia's cell phone that shows his bed was not pushed directly against the wall by the head of the bed. This photo articulates the ability for blood to get onto the walls and floor in the corner of the bedroom. Mr. Stauch stated that the positioning of the bed is unusual and that the bed is usually pushed against the wall. So those pictures are not the best quality. Here's an image that Dig sent to me. And so this woman, moved the bed to try to hide the blood or cover the blood, went through extreme lengths to try to clean up. And there was a lot of blood, so much so that it soaked through the corners and through the concrete and through the carpet, and the bedding is missing. His room was in the basement. The need to rent a 2019 Kia Rio. Mr. Stauch spent the night in Denver on January 25th, 2020, and flew out of Denver International Airport on January 26, 2020. Investigators were able to corroborate he traveled to Dallas, Texas, and ultimately to Oklahoma based on his flight records. On the morning of January 28, 2020, Letecia rented a 2019 Kia Rio from Avis Rent-A-Car in Colorado Springs. Letecia picked up Mr. Stauch at the Colorado Springs airport at or about 8:50 a.m. on January 28, 2020. Shortly after Letecia rented the vehicle, Letecia and Mr. Stauch drove back to their residence from the airport in the rented Kia. The timing of the rental of the Kia is suspicious, and combined with forensic evidence later obtained from the Tiguan and discussed below, tends to place additional importance on why Letecia felt compelled to rent a vehicle that morning. Investigators located no evidence that the Tiguan was not mechanically functioning or noted any reason why it could not be physically driven. In fact, the Tiguan remained parked in the Colorado Springs airport, short-term parking lot until approximately 7 p.m. on January 28, 2020. Letecia provided statements to her husband, Albert Stauch, that she was concerned about putting mileage on her Tiguan lease, which justified the vehicle rental. It is noted, however, that during that time of the Kia rental, Letecia only put about 71 miles on the vehicle. During that time period, Letecia had the Kia. She would not provide the location of the Tiguan, and Mr. Stauch never saw the Tiguan. For example, she told Mr. Stauch that the Tiguan was near French Elementary School. Between investigators and Mr. Stauch, a limited search of the Tiguan was conducted and produced negative results. Investigators later learned she left the vehicle in the short-term parking lot of the Colorado Springs airport, but removed the vehicle at or about January 28, 2020 at 7 p.m. The Kia Rio was returned on the morning of January 29, 2020. I submit Letecia could not pick her husband up in the Volkswagen Tiguan because it likely would have revealed evidence of Gannon's murder, including blood and actual remains of Gannon himself. The Kia Rio. Investigators applied for and were granted by this court a search warrant of the 2019 Kia Rio rented by Letecia Stauch. This vehicle was located at the rental car company at the Colorado Springs airport and had not been rented to another customer in between the time Letecia dropped off the vehicle. This vehicle was not located at the rental car company at the Colorado Springs airport and had not been rented to another customer in between the time Letecia dropped off the vehicle and when investigators seized it. Investigators did take a swab from a stain that was confirmed to be blood in the trunk of the Kia Rio and submitted it to the Metro Crime Laboratory for analysis. A DNA profile was developed and determined it was a mixture of two contributors, one of which was male, and the major male profile did not match Gannon Stauch's DNA. I submit that because the Kia Rio is a rental, it has likely been utilized by a large number of people, and the blood in the trunk may or not be related to the investigation. Like, damn, who else is dead? Did somebody else get killed in a vehicle? Or may not be related to the investigation, and investigators have not been able to determine the likely age of that blood and have not matched it to any known DNA profiles associated with this case. That's weird. Okay. Investigators noted that the Kia had significant amount of mud underneath the vehicle, but this did not provide any successful investigative leads in looking for Gannon's remains. Investigators collected the air filter of the vehicle and attempted to identify particles that might be useful to identify where the vehicle might have been. That's interesting too. I didn't know they could do that. Investigators were unable to recover any GPS data or location history for the Kia Rio. Letecia's Volkswagen Tiguan is significant. The Volkswagen Tiguan is important to investigators because they believe the Tiguan was used to transport the remains of Gannon from the Stauch residence to a location where Gannon's body was dumped. The definitive locations of the Tiguan are unknown to investigators during the time period of approximately 7:02 p.m. on January 28, 2020 to approximately 12 p.m. on January 29, 2020. Investigators believe Letecia dumped Gannon's remains on the evening of January 28, 2020 and utilized the Tiguan to do so. The Tiguan was seized from Letecia on January 29, 2020. Letecia had scheduled an interview with investigators on January 29, 2020 at the EPSO located in downtown Colorado Springs, Colorado. When she arrived at or about 12 p.m., she was driving the Volkswagen Tiguan. Investigators noted that the vehicle was wet and appeared to have been recently cleaned. I submit that Letecia had to clean the vehicle because there was likely visible blood on the rear end. Based on the below luminol reactions, indeed, video footage was recovered that shows a partial view of a car wash located East Plate Avenue and Bonnefoy Avenue in Colorado Springs, Colorado. This video captured a portion of a black SUV consistent with the Volkswagen Tiguan at or about 11:30 a.m. on January 29, 2020 at the car wash. The time and location are consistent with raw data obtained from the Tiguan's computer system described in more detail below, beginning in paragraph 152. Investigators applied for and were granted a search warrant for the Tiguan, which was seized from Letecia at her interview and towed to the EPSO evidence facility on or about February 1st, 2020. The FBI Evidence Response Team, ERT, conducted a search of the Volkswagen Tiguan. In summary, the forensic portion of the search revealed possible traces of blood on the rear of the vehicle, a rear passenger seat, front passenger seat, and an area near the glove box based on luminol forensic latent blood stain reagent test. Swabs from the trunk area were sent to the Metro Crime Laboratory for further analysis. These results revealed that a DNA profile could not be developed and that the swab from the trunk was negative for presumptive presence of blood. To be clear, luminol is a chemical used to detect trace amounts of blood at crime scenes, and although I do not have a chemical or biological background, I have learned that luminol reacts with iron and hemoglobin found in the blood. When applied, luminol emits a blue glow when a reaction occurs. I am also aware that there are things other than blood that could cause a reaction, such as other chemicals, and I do not submit that just because luminol reacted with a substance, that the substance must be blood, and only that there is a strong possibility of suspected blood. The positive reaction to luminol is meant to be combined with other facts in this affidavit in support of probable cause. Several areas of the Tiguan reacted to luminol, as mentioned in paragraph 68. Specifically, the search team found evidence of suspected blood on the rear bumper and step plate of the rear bumper. The location of the blood is significant because this vehicle was backed into the garage at Letecia's residence the day of Gannon's murder. The search of the residence is discussed below, but it is noted that evidence of Gannon's blood based on DNA profile was also located on the floor of the garage, consistent with where the rear end of the Tiguan would have been. A photo is included below to demonstrate the reaction of the luminol reagent to the likely presence of blood. Particularly, the position of the reaction leads investigators to believe that blood was likely in contact with the rear bumper of the Tiguan, and most reasonably, while loading Gannon's remains in the trunk. Swabs from the exterior bumper have also been submitted to the Metro Crime Laboratory, but those results have not been returned yet. However, the Metro Crime Laboratory did return a result from the trunk of the Tiguan that was negative for presumptive presence of blood. Can't really see anything there. That's like the trunk. Luminol reaction on the rear bumper of the Tiguan. I guess you see it on the, okay, on the corner there. Within the Tiguan, a receipt from a dollar store was located, timestamped January 27, 2020, 5:14 p.m., and documented the purchase of trash bags, baking soda, vinegar, and the items listed in paragraph 74. Investigators believe that Harley purchased these items at the direction of Letecia based on the following text message sent from Letecia's cell phone to Harley's cell phone on January 27, 2020 at or about 4:52 p.m. Letecia says, carpet powder, 2 things, baking soda, trash bags. Also included in this dollar store purchase was baby oil, baby lotion, cotton rounds, and bubble gum. Investigators do not believe these other items were involved in the cleaning of the murder scene and likely have no investigative value at this point. I know from personal experience that baking soda and vinegar are common household items that can be used to clean blood. Additionally, I conducted open source internet searches that revealed vinegar is one of the most common items, I didn't know that, used to clean blood stains, and that when baking soda is applied to blood stains prior to vinegar, it has an efficient effect in removing blood stains. While the purchase of items such as vinegar and baking soda are common and in no sense illegal on their own, the timing of the purchase of these items and Gannon's suspected murder are beyond coincidental. Also located was a parking receipt for Colorado Springs Airport that documented that Tiguan was brought into the airport short-term parking lot at or about 8:30 a.m. and left the lot at or about 7:02 p.m., both on January 28, 2020. On January 29, 2020, Letecia returned the rented Kia at approximately 9 a.m. and she was picked up by someone driving the white Jetta. Investigators were unable to confirm that Harlee was driving the Jetta, but it is her primary vehicle, and her historical cell site location from cellular telephone records support her phone was in the area. As such, I believe Harlee was likely driving the Jetta. Investigators were able to download telematics and stored electronic data from the Tiguan. A more in-depth exploitation of the Tiguan's electronic systems, more specifically its historical locations, were developed and will be discussed below in more detail beginning in paragraph 152. Investigators were able to determine that some of the locations of the Tiguan on the evening of January 28, 2020, including its location in the area of Highway 105 South Perry Park Road in Douglas County, Colorado. Investigators also served a search warrant to AT&T related to an international mobile subscriber identity, IMSI, designated to the Tiguan's CarNet feature. AT&T responded to the search warrant and provided network event location system, NELOS, data that would give an estimated location of the Tiguan. Interesting. The data revealed that during the evening of January 28, 2020, between 8:30 p.m. and 10:20 p.m., the Tiguan was generally in the greater northwest portion of Colorado Springs and likely also in an area north of the Air Force Academy and southern Douglas County. I submit that during this time period, investigators believe that Letecia disposed of Gannon's remains. Of note, during the time period of approximately 8:30 p.m. and 10:20 p.m. on January 28, 2020, Harlee's cell phone is connected to a tower that would service the Stauch residence. Over approximately 30 miles from Letecia's suspected location, there was activity on Harlee's telephone during that time, and investigators do not believe that Harlee was with Letecia when she disposed of the body. However, at approximately 10:26 p.m., Harlee's cell phone leaves the Stauch residence and goes to the area of Powers and Carefree, where investigators suspect she picked up Letecia. Oh, wow. On January 29, 2020, interview and the report of an alleged of Letecia Stauch. I heard about this. As mentioned above, Letecia voluntarily came to the EPSO for an interview with investigators, but only after she was evasive and avoided speaking with investigators one-on-one. Her interview was audio and video recorded, and below the information includes her own statements as well as investigation geared towards corroborating those statements. In general, her statements are reasonably categorized as untruthful, incomplete, and misleading. Letecia was supposed to arrive at 10 a.m. on January 29, 2020, but did not arrive until noon. Although she spoke with investigators on the phone several times, she did not want investigators coming to her home and was difficult at best to track down. Investigators provided food and water to Letecia during the interview. Of interest, Letecia brought several pieces of notebook paper with her that contained notes she had written down. Bruh, she literally brought notes to the interview / interrogation. During the interview, she referred to these pieces of paper and asked investigators if she could just read her notes. Investigators were not able to seize these documents. I have conducted hundreds of interviews of subjects, victims, and witnesses. It is extremely rare for an individual to bring notes to an interview. It's like, just so I can remember the lie. Let me just write down the story the multiple stories that I've come up with and concocted. Letecia drastically departed from her initial statements given to the EPSO deputies regarding the report of Gannon's disappearance. In summary, Letecia said she had been held at gunpoint and by a Hispanic male she knew as Eduardo, and that Gannon was abducted by that male after he finished her. The interviewing detectives believed her statements were false based upon prior experience investigating cases. Letecia said that she arrived home around 2:30 p.m. on January 27, 2020, and she disarmed her security system and then went into the basement. She said that Eduardo was in the basement, attacked her, and pointed a gun at her. She said that after Eduardo held her at gunpoint, he allowed her to go upstairs to greet her stepdaughter, Lena, who just arrived from school. Letecia said she sent her outside to ride her bike, then returned to the basement where Eduardo penetrated her against her will between 3:30 p.m. and 4:30 p.m. During this period, she believed that she had hit her head and may have blacked out. Investigators noted no injuries on Letecia's head during their contact with her. Letecia also said that during the attack, Gannon jumped on Eduardo's back and that Eduardo was able to throw Gannon off of his back across the room. After Eduardo had finished, he had the gun held to Gannon and demanded a suitcase. Letecia provided him with a brown suitcase and a cardboard box. Eduardo attempted to assault her again, but she hit her head and blacked out again. Letecia stated that she tried to fight Eduardo off, but was unsuccessful. I know from training and from experience that if an individual holds another person at gunpoint, he or she would likely not allow the person to have the opportunity to escape, as Letecia described, being allowed to greet her stepdaughter upstairs before returning to the basement. Most crucially, if Letecia's story was accurate, any reasonable person would have immediately called 911 and reported the home invasion and of their child. Letecia called law enforcement hours later and did not report an alleged until approximately 2 days later. Of even more significance, Letecia said she cleaned up the area where this alleged attack happened. She straightened up signs of disturbances in Gannon's room and cleaned up the utility room. Investigators recovered cleaning supplies such as carpet brushes, which contained suspected carpet fibers. I submit that Letecia did in fact clean something up, but it was the murder scene of Gannon, not sexual assault. Investigators took steps to corroborate Letecia's statements before dismissing them as false and misleading. For example, investigators reviewed video footage from a neighborhood security camera that captured the exterior of the Stauch residence from the day of Gannon's murder and did not observe a Hispanic male entering the house. Investigators did observe Lena arrive home on the school bus at or about 3:11 p.m., observed her enter the residence, and observed her riding her bike at or about 3:30 p.m. Furthermore, Letecia was offered the opportunity to have a sexual assault nurse examiner saying conduct a forensic examination at the local hospital. Ultimately, Letecia did not want to have the exam completed. When given the opportunity to provide investigators with evidence that would possibly identify Eduardo, Letecia refused to cooperate. Letecia stated that she met Eduardo on January 26, 2020, the day prior to Gannon's murder. She generally described a Hispanic male with brown hair and brown eyes, but could not provide any specific identifying information. In summary, she told investigators that Gannon had knocked over a candle on Sunday, causing the carpet to burn. After the incident, she drove around the neighborhood where residential construction was taking place. She met Eduardo, who was working on a house, and asked if he would repair the carpet in her home. Eduardo agreed, and Letecia provided him the garage door code, and they agreed he would repair the carpet while she was shopping the next day. To the extent Letecia spoke about Lena, investigators were able to corroborate those statements, but never observed Eduardo or anyone else arrive or leave the residence during that time period based on exterior neighborhood video footage of the front of the Stauch residence. Specifically, exterior video footage revealed that Lena was riding her bike outside between approximately 3:30 and 3:42 p.m. Furthermore, the front door of the residence opened and closed at about 3:28 p.m. based on data from ADT security system discussed more below. I know from training and experience that when individuals concoct lies most reasonably to conceal the truth, they oftentimes leave portions of truths within those lies. I submit that the statements Letecia made reference Lena, and on the time period Lena was at the residence, are likely true based on video evidence. Her other statements, however, are blatant lies designed to mislead investigators. Investigators also reviewed Letecia's phone records during the time period of the alleged R of 3:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. on January 27, 2020. During this time period, Letecia had phone activity to include an outgoing phone call and numerous iMessages, text messages using an iPhone, to Mr. Stauch and Harley, namely to discuss purchasing a new set of headphones for Albert. Text messages occurred at the following times: 3:41, 3:42, 3:43, 44, 45, 4:11, 4:19, 4:20. So according to her, she's getting R'd and she's texting and like doing all this stuff on her phone. Investigators also were granted a search warrant by this court that served to ADT Home Security, which requested data stored on the ADT servers related to the Stauch residence. The Stauch residence was equipped with basement and living room motion detectors and contact detectors on the front and rear door. ADT was in possession of logs that documented the time, date, and type of event that generated a log. For example, when either motion detector was activated or the front or rear door opened or closed, there was a record of that event. Letecia claimed that she was R'd in the basement between 2:30 and 3:30 p.m. During that time, the back door of the residence located on the main level was opened and closed 10 times. If indeed Letecia was being R'd in the basement, it would be impossible for her to open the upstairs back door of the residence at the same time. I submit that Letecia's claims of being R'd in the basement are false based on her cell phone activity and the stored ADT data. The logs from ADT indicate significant activity in the basement of the residence where evidence suggests Gannon was murdered. For example, between January 23, 2020 and January 26, 2020, in the hours of 3 p.m. and 5 p.m., the average number of basement motion events were 3.5. On January 27, 2020, the average number of basement motion events was 10.3. A possible scenario for the increase in activity is that Letecia was going upstairs and downstairs in order to get cleaning supplies and cleaning the murder scene. Reminds me a little bit of this whole Alec Murdaugh stuff. Towards the end of the interview, Letecia said she wanted to leave. Investigators seized her telephone and detained her while they applied for a search warrant to obtain DNA collection. Letecia began stuffing tissues in her pants and said she was having chest pain and shortness of breath. Investigators immediately requested medical assistance, and paramedics from the Colorado Springs Fire Department arrived. Letecia had appropriate response to paramedic questions. I'm aware that Letecia had made statements regarding Gannon's disappearance to individuals other than law enforcement, including but not limited to her friend, her husband, and the media. Indeed, some of those conversations have been captured and memorialized in recorded phone conversations and email messages. Letecia's story have continued to evolve and material facts continue to change, including but not limited to the identity of her attacker, the location of Gannon's abduction, and the details of the alleged R. During her statements, Letecia did deny killing Gannon and provided explanations as to why there was blood in her Tiguan, blood in Gannon's room, and why she was in the area of Palmer Lake, Colorado. Letecia is transported to a local hospital in Colorado Springs on January 29, 2020. Letecia was transported to the hospital via ambulance from the EPSO for further medical attention. Letecia was accompanied by a detective during the ride to the hospital. Unlike questions at the EPSO by paramedics, during the ambulance ride, Letecia was unresponsive to questions by medical personnel and seemed to have miraculous recovery when they arrived at the hospital. Amazing. The ambulance ride was audio recorded. Letecia received medical care at the hospital, and the details of that care is not included in this affidavit for medical privacy reasons. Letecia did not have any life-threatening issues and signed herself out prior to all her exams being completed. Letecia continued evasive behavior at the hospital, but particularly after investigators told her they were going to detain her pending the issuance of a search warrant to collect her DNA. Ultimately, the search warrant for the collection of non-testimonial evidence was signed and executed. A second warrant for the compelled SANE exam was initially authorized by this court, but then was quashed by the court. To be clear, Letecia did not allow a SANE exam to be completed. It's the essay type of exam to examine if she was ARD. Letecia was not in custody after the warrant was executed at the hospital and left the hospital without telling investigators. She also made a phone call from the waiting room at the hospital. There was physical surveillance being conducted by law enforcement in the area, and investigators learned Letecia was picked up by an unknown person at the hospital and was reunited with her daughter several miles from the hospital. Although her behavior was not illegal, I submit that as pressure continued to increase from investigators, Letecia became more and more desperate to leave the hospital, likely because she feared being caught in her lies. Furthermore, Letecia did not want to pursue collecting evidence that might assist law enforcement in identifying and finding her supposed R, the guy that R'd her, supposedly. Searches of Letecia's residence and discovery of confirmed blood in Gannon's bedroom. Investigators searched the Stauch residence several times over several weeks after applying for and being granted search warrants from this court. The purpose of these searches was to collect evidence, including biological evidence, in support of the captioned investigation. The forensic searches were conducted by the Colorado Springs Metro Crime Lab. To avoid confusion, the January 28, 2020 initial search was authorized by Mr. Stauch and provided consent to search the residence. Not all of the evidence recovered is included below. However, the forensic testing results of several items, including a pair of size 8.5 Nike shoes, were discussed in paragraph 126. Gannon's remaining family members were living in the residence during the period of these searches, and investigators did not initially seal off the residence. Crime scene analysts from the Colorado Springs Metro Crime Lab responded to the residence and found these traces of blood throughout the residence based on Blue Star Forensic latent blood stain reagent tests. There was visible blood in Gannon's room, in the garage, and in other portions of the house. Blue Star Forensic stain has similar limitations to luminol, which has been described and discussed above. By the way of background, the residence located at 6627 Mandan Drive, Colorado Springs, Colorado, is a ranch-style single-family home, approximately 2,500 square feet, with a 2-car garage. There are 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms in the residence. 2 of those bedrooms are in the basement, including Gannon's. Next to Gannon's room, there is an unfinished utility room, and on the other side of the basement, another bedroom and a bathroom. There is a staircase with a small landing that allows access from the main level to the basement, and the garage is accessible from inside the residence. The Blue Star reagent was applied to Gannon's bedroom, the hallway leading to the utility room from his bedroom, the utility room itself, the staircase, and the landing leading upstairs from the utility room. The pathway to the garage from the stairs and the garage itself. In all of these areas, investigators found positive results for a likely presence of blood. Blue Star reaction at the base of the stairs in the garage at the Stauch residence. Can't really see anything there. Specifically in Gannon's room, in a corner of the room, investigators located an area where suspected blood had seeped through the carpet, through the pad, and stained the concrete. Furthermore, there was also blood stain and projected blood spatter located on the walls in this area. Indeed, over 50 droplets of suspected blood were found on the walls near Gannon's bed. Crime scene investigators also suspected someone attempted to clean the walls based on the way the Blue Star reagent reacted on the wall. Gannon's mattress was also seized and contains a red stain consistent with blood in the same area as the stain on the carpet, and the blood cast off on the walls. The stains on the mattress were swabbed but were not tested with the Blue Star reagent. The laboratory results have not yet been returned, but because other blood in the area was determined to be Gannon's blood, investigators suspect the blood on the mattress is also Gannon's blood. I have included several crime scene photographs that include the wall next to Gannon's bed and the carpet and carpet pad that was removed by investigators to expose the concrete below. Based on the orientation of Gannon's bed, the vast majority of the blood would be in line with the position of his head and torso and consistent with the stain of the mattress displayed above. I submit that the blood located in Gannon's room appears to have been cleaned up based on residual blood residue on the baseboards and electrical outlet cover and the blood that soaked through the carpet. DNA laboratory testing has confirmed it was indeed Gannon's blood, and Gannon's body has not been found, reasonably indicating that this was likely the scene of Gannon's murder. Investigators have requested but have not received a report from Tom Griffin, who is an International Association for Identification, certified senior crime scene analyst, a bloodstain pattern analyst, and a crime scene reconstructionist. Mr. Griffin examined the blood spattered on Gannon's wall. Mr. Griffin preliminarily reported that the stains on the walls are consistent with one or more blood spatter producing events, which could include gunshot, blunt force, or stabbing. Mr. Griffin did not believe the bloodstains were aspirated blood, primarily due to the lack of the air bubbles in the stains. Furthermore, the shape of the stains were affected by the surface texture of the drywall itself. The final report from Mr. Griffin has not yet been received and is pending a peer review. Trace evidence swabs of suspected blood were obtained from the electrical socket next to Gannon's bed. These swabs revealed the blood was indeed Gannon's blood. Based on DNA profile testing, the electrical socket also has evidence of streak marks, which are reasonably suspected to be from Letecia's attempted cleaning. When investigators removed the outlet cover, a visible red stain was present, outlining the edges. Wow. The presence of this stain tends to support that there was enough blood around the outlet cover to seep around its edges, leaving a visible outline. Wow. Electrical socket next to Gannon's bed with blood and socket with cover removed. Wow. Photo of wall next to Gannon's bed marking suspected blood stains. Okay. I have also included a photograph of the suspected blood stain in the concrete located in the corner of the bedroom where Gannon's bed was positioned. This stain is also visible in the photo depicting the suspected blood spatter on the walls. The carpet above this stain in the concrete was clean, and investigators suspected Letecia cleaned the area based on the carpet fibers on scrub brushes, the acquisition of carpet cleaning supplies, vinegar, and baking soda. 6627 Mandan Drive was a new construction build, and the Stauch family was the only family to reside in this residence. Blood on concrete in Gannon's bedroom. These images aren't the best, but on January 29, 2020, investigators recovered a piece of carpet from the utility room with possible blood stains. The recovery of this carpet tends to further support the positive alerts from the Blue Star region in the utility room. The Metro Crime Lab reported the substance tested presumptively positive for the presence of blood, but was unable to develop a DNA profile. On January 29, 2020, investigators found in the dishwasher multiple carpet brushes with suspected carpet fibers on them, and the dishwasher appeared to have been run. Investigators believe these brushes were used to clean up the murder scene. To be clear, no formal testing was completed to confirm the fibers on the brushes were carpet. Investigators also located an empty gallon-sized container of vinegar within the residence. Mr. Stauch believed that there was approximately a half of the container left before he left for Oklahoma on January 25th. As mentioned above, additional vinegar was purchased January 27, 2020. EPSO deputies that responded to the Stauch home on January 27 did not notice the bloodstains in Gannon's bedroom, and it should be noted the initial report was that Gannon had left the home and had not returned. As additional information was developed, more forensic searches of Gannon's room were conducted, which revealed the aforementioned evidence. There were small traces of blood found in the depressions of the drywall and paint texture that Letecia failed to remove when she cleaned the murder scene. This is the Metro Laboratory Report case, and this is like all the pieces of evidence and lab results and pieces of evidence that was taken and from where. And I feel like during the trial, we're going to have to sit and listen to all this, like I think with the Alec Murdaugh stuff. So we can kind of skip past that. We'll talk about it during the trial. I just want to give you guys, an overall in-depth information, historical cell site location related telephone for her telephones. Investigators applied for and were granted search warrants by this court to obtain historical call data records to include cell site locations, cellular devices known and utilized by Letecia and Harley. And in this part here, 129, it says that they identified unusual activity for Letecia, potentially disconnecting her cell phone from the cellular network for several hours. I submit that by disconnecting the phone, Letecia intended to prevent law enforcement from being able to determine her location. Specifically, this occurred on January 28, 2020. During the evening, she disposed of Gannon's remains. And so we're going to touch on this part here, the search of Letecia's cellular telephone. They applied for a search warrant for Letecia's cellular tower. A physical download was conducted and investigators were able to recover data inclusive of text messages, call records, specific times her cell phone was unlocked, battery levels, all that stuff. In summary, investigators learned that Letecia lied to her employer, her husband, her friends, her daughter, and the children's babysitter. I will not include each and every text or lie. There's so many, I guess, right? Additionally, there are messages that would otherwise tend to corroborate her statements about Gannon's whereabouts on the afternoon of January 27, 2020, if in fact he did go play with his friends. As discussed in other portions of the affidavit, Letecia's story was false and misleading, and these messages were likely sent by her as part of a larger plan to support her initial lies about his disappearance. For example, on January 28, 2020, at approximately 5:14 a.m., Letecia had a conversation with Stephanie, the children's babysitter, saved in the phone as Stephanie's sitter. There is no indication that Gannon ever went to a doctor, and Letecia never brought that up with investigators. Some, but not all, of their conversation is below. From, it says here, outgoing. This happened after 3:30. Outgoing, we talked to him, then told him to go home by 5. Someone posted he wasn't at school either. Incoming. And outgoing, he had to go to the doctor for his stomach. Another outgoing, but he was here in the afternoon. Incoming, where did he say he was at? Outgoing, honestly, I don't keep up with friends. Letecia made statements to investigators via text messages that could be considered exculpatory in nature related to the presence of blood in the basement of their residence. As seen in the below text message, I have talked with investigators that were inside the Stauch residence on January 27, 28, and 29. There was no odor of smoke, no evidence of smoke. In fact, one detective noted the basement smelled like coconut and was very pleasant. Oh, Lord. Furthermore, I know that burns often do not produce wounds that bleed profusely. And so here's a message here. When we came back inside from the smoke, there was blood on both of us. I didn't know what to do. I was scared I would get fussed out about it, and I didn't know if he should go to the doctor. I kept trying to add the candle thing, but Albert kept saying it was small and minor. I was scared the basement was smoky, and when I threw the covers on everything, we both had blood. And Nicole, the participant, outgoing, you don't understand how hard it is to be a stepmom. The below messages appears to contain instructions for Letecia to Harley to purchase the carpet powder. This stuff we covered already. Baking soda, trash bags, on or about January 27, 4:52 p.m. These messages are important because investigators believe the purpose of these items was to clean up blood from the murder of Gannon. So it says carpet powders, 2 things, baking soda, trash bag. So here they talk about Letecia's internet activity between January 25th and January 29, 2020. They recovered this internet search history from websites, from the forensic physical download and search of Letecia's phone. Between the dates of January 25th and 28, Letecia viewed websites associated with searching for a job in the states other than Colorado, such as Los Angeles, California, Orlando, Florida, Pensacola Beach, Florida, and Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Letecia also viewed apartments and 2-bedroom rental properties in Florida. Additionally, she visited a moving cost calculator website. Letecia's internet activity also captured a search for a rental car and visited the website Priceline.com on January 28th at or about 8:17 a.m., which is consistent with the acquisition of the Kia. Letecia appeared to use Google, a popular search engine. I have included some of her queries to Google along with the date and approximate time of the search. Not all of her Google searches are included below. I submit that Letecia's search history is important because the history suggests she might have been struggling as a step parent, and additionally suggests that she was not happily married to Mr. Stauch. While her search history alone does not provide motive to murder Gannon, it does shed light on her inquisitive thoughts of her position with the family, memorialized in Google's search engine. The other thing too, which is like they notice her typing pattern, I also direct the court's attention to the way Letecia's search terms are sometimes entered. Letecia hits the period key instead of the space key multiple times while searching the internet. In approximately 44% of the searches listed below, this will be significant during the discussion of a search conducted on Gannon's phone, as was discussed above in paragraph 40, and will be further discussed below. There are other searches on Letecia's phone that uses a period. An additional search history over a longer time span does exist that is not listed below. So some of the search terms, and this is on 125, find real military singles. Parenting should be for 4 people, not 1. I'm overdoing all the work for my stepkids and their mom doesn't help. Mom advice from stepmom. If you aren't involved in your kid's life, you are shitty. My husband's ex-wife does nothing for her kids. I wonder if my husband's ex-wife is sending me a card since I raised her kids. I wonder if my husband's ex-wife is sending me a Valentine's card since I raised her kids. One day, some people will wish they treated you differently. Why should my husband choose me over family? Wow. Find me a rich guy who wants me to take care of his kids. Find me a guy. Oh, shit. Bruh. Yo. We're good on that. I mean, I don't know. I'm not rich, but you gotta be careful with this. Oh yeah, I'll take care of you. I'll do this and that, bruh. Find me a guy who wants to take care of his kids and get paid. Find a guy who wants me to take care of his kids and get paid. It's crappy some parents don't care for their kids or buy them presents. Parents are those who put their kids before their needs. That's to put nails, but I guess she meant needs. My son burned the carpet. How do I fix it? Will humidifier help if exposed to smoke? Smoke effects, will humidifier help? Smoke from fire effects, will humidifier help? Colorado law for kids staying at home. She put staying, I guess meant staying. School is out. Is it okay for my kid to stay home alone? Go for kids. Son is sick, but I have to go to work. Son sick, can he stay home? Suede repair kit for sofa. El Paso Sheriff's Office number. What is the process for runaway child? So here she's trying to corroborate her story. Police steps for missing child. Today's flight, OKC, Oklahoma to COS, I think. Can Nintendo find my Switch? Car, net, Volkswagen. They're asking for our son's toothbrush, but said nothing is wrong. So now, okay, this is search history that was deleted. Investigators were also able to recover internet search history that was deleted from Letecia's phone. No time and date association was located with the data, and I can only ascertain that the searches were conducted prior to EPSO seizing Letecia's phone on January 29. Some, but not all, of the search history is included below. Some of the other deleted search terms included travel planning, shopping, job searches, and other seemingly innocent activity. I have not purposely left out any particular search that would be exculpatory in nature, and I am not intending to portray that all of Letecia's deleted searches were nefarious in nature. Let's take a look. Find me a new husband book. Hey, I feel like I'm just a nanny, not a stepmom. Husband uses me to babysit kids. Are there any free money to move away from bad situation? My husband never posts about me, but does everything else. My husband only deans up for the army, not me. Cleans up for the army, not me. I'm just a glorified babysitter. Find a new husband. Sent my husband sexual images and he ignores them. Damn. Make my husband want me more. I feel like my husband uses me to babysit his kid. Find a guy without kids. You're over here saying you want somebody, you'll take care of the kids. Then you're trying to find somebody without kids. Some deleted internet search terms located on Letecia's phone. No date information was available. The investigators put a tracking GPS device on the Nissan Altima that I believe she rented, and she went back to the area where she disposed of Gannon's body. They were tracking all this stuff, and the reasonable theory for the fact Letecia returned to this area based on the information presented in this affidavit, Letecia disposed of Gannon's remains at nighttime and likely was nervous about the location she chose and may not have even remembered exactly where she dumped Gannon's body. Investigators believe that on January 31st, 2020, she went back to the area to view the area while sunlight was available to ensure no evidence was viewable from the road, to ensure his remains were adequately covered to prevent detection, and to see if any law enforcement was in the area. The continued evolution of Letecia's stories. We're going to skip around. We're going to watch all this during the trial, but just the important parts. For the purposes of refreshing the court, here's the summary of Letecia's statements, whether to law enforcement directly through media or Mr. Stauch, in recorded email and voice communications. On January 27, 2020, Letecia stated Gannon left to play at a friend's house and did not come home at 6 p.m. like he was supposed to. On January 29, Letecia stated she was held at gunpoint in Ard and Gannon was abducted by her, Ard. Within Letecia's falsehoods, there are details corroborated by physical evidence that would be near impossible to know without being intimately involved in the murder. Letecia has made statements to explain blood on the walls in Gannon's bedroom, blood near the bumper of the Tiguan, and blood in the garage of the Stauch residence. Details of the location of blood evidence has not been released to media nor Letecia and has been closely held throughout the investigation. Furthermore, Letecia has continued to provide alibis for her physical locations not previously disclosed to investigators. Her statements continue to evolve in a dramatic way and are remarkably different from the original report to EPSO. The majority of conversations between Letecia and Albert, the father, began around February 13, 2020. Over several days, Letecia's story continued to change. During a phone call on February 13, 2020, Letecia stated that Gannon was burned by a candle to the point his skin bubbled, and that Gannon peeled his burns off and wiped blood on the bedroom wall. Mr. Stauch did not ask about blood on the walls of his room during this call. The fact she provided information about blood on the wall likely indicates her knowledge of the murder scene. On February 14, 2020, Letecia had additional conversation with Mr. Stauch and provided 4 additional versions of Gannon's disappearance. Story 1. When EPSO came to the house on January 27, the abductor was still in her residence, and she tried to signal EPSO deputies that there was somebody in her residence. It should be noted that EPSO deputies checked the entirety of the house and no additional person was located at search. Story 2. She was AR'd by somebody named Quincy Brown at her residence. Brown abducted Gannon. She knew Brown's identity because she saw a paper and his identification card fell out of his pocket that had his name on it. Letecia sent a photograph of Quincy Brown to Mr. Stauch via text message. It is noted that this photograph mirrored images online wherein Quincy Brown was listed as most wanted suspect, discussed below. Story 3. Quincy Brown followed her from Petco and at some point was laying in the middle of the road in front of her car. When Letecia stopped to avoid running the man over, he jumped into the car and made her take him home, and then he AR'd her. Story 4. Letecia and Gannon were near County Line Road, Highway 105 in northern El Paso County on January 27, 2020. Gannon was riding a bicycle in the area and fell off, hit his head, and was then abducted by Quincy Brown. In this version of events, Quincy Brown was driven by a man named Terrence. Okay, we got more people, more stories. On February 14, 2020, Story 4 has several interesting considerations. During the period of February 12th through the 14th, it was public knowledge by virtue of media coverage that investigations were searching for Gannon in the area of Highway 105, South Perry Park Road, in southern Douglas County near El Paso County line. Letecia brought this location up on her own without prompt during a conversation and provided an alibi for why she was in that area. Letecia was adamant that investigators' efforts to search for Gannon in the area would be futile. She didn't want them going there. This area turned out to be significant based on Tiguan's location on January 28, and that Gannon's blood was found in this area, discussed in more detail below. Furthermore, as mentioned above, Letecia drove through the same area in her Nissan Altima rental on January 31st, 2020. As we talked about the GPS tracking that they put into the vehicle. I submit that based on raw data retrieved from the Tiguan, Letecia was likely in the area of Highway 105 South Perry Park Road on the evening of January 28th, and Gannon's remains were dumped in the vicinity of that area. Letecia's story lays the foundation for a reason why investigators may locate Gannon's body with head trauma. So she's concocting and adapting and changing her story. On February 15, 2020, Letecia provided additional conflicting stories to Mr. Stauch, including that the story she told Albert Stauch about Gannon falling off the bike was a lie because it was what she believed he wanted to hear. Letecia stated the blood in the corner of Gannon's room was a combination of hers and Gannon's. In this explanation, she stated that the abductor penetrated both her and Gannon with an object. I mean, this woman. Additionally, she was tied up at some point in the abduction, and the abductor was still present during the EPSO visit that night. I mean, and Quincy Brown was somebody that she added to her story. This is a guy that was on the most wanted list in El Paso, February 10th, 2020. And notably, it says, I was able to locate Brown's photo on KKTV News website where they described Brown as a black male. Noted that Letecia's story described a Hispanic male as her art, the guy that art her. The photo on this website appeared to be the same photo that Letecia sent to Mr. Stauch. Brown has outstanding warrants, failure to register as an offender, and failure to appear. These warrants appear to have been open since 2018. He has a criminal history, 2001 arrest for first-degree kidnapping, which he pled to felony menacing. But investigators have uncovered no evidence to support that Quincy Brown was involved in Gannon's disappearance. Now, February 15, 2020, as mentioned above, investigators began to focus a search effort for Gannon's remains in the area of Highway 105. And this is based off of like the data that they got off of this vehicle when she goes there, like the raw data and also the FBI tracking data. So the Tiguan, they got raw data from it on January 28th, but they also got location data from her rental vehicle on January 31st, which, you know, she goes back to the area where she disposed of Gannon. On February 15, 2020, searchers located a piece of particle board during that search. The particle board had a stain that appeared to be consistent with blood and is pictured below. I have added a red circle to indicate the location of the blood stain. The particle board was collected by FBI evidence response team, transported to the Metro Crime Lab. Also on February 15, 2020, an initial test revealed a positive presumptive result for the presence of human or high primate blood. Further testing was conducting and DNA profile was developed and compared to Gannon's. On February 16, the profile matched the DNA profile of Gannon. And so they include a picture. You can barely see it, I guess, because maybe it's photocopied or something. There's like a circle particle board located in the area of Highway 105 where Letecia didn't want them going and searching. Reasonable explanation for the discovery of this particle board with Gannon's blood on it is that Letecia used this particle board during the disposal of Gannon's remains. The area in which the particle board was found is rural, and the ground was covered by approximately 6 to 12 inches of snow. Additionally, as the area is rural in nature, it is likely populated by wildlife, including predators such as bear, coyotes, and mountain lions. Gannon's remains have not been located, and while investigators will continue to search the area, it is possible those remains have been scattered since January 28, 2020. On this document at the time, they hadn't found Gannon yet. This was signed February 28th, 2020, and Gannon, March 2020, Gannon's body was found in a suitcase near a bridge in Florida. Now, if you remember, also at the beginning of the thing, this woman's concocting this whole story about this guy that, what's his name? Guado, whatever, that he demands a suitcase. So she's coming up with all these stories to corroborate all the crap that she did herself and creating all these alibis and just constantly changing and switching her story. Thank you guys for watching. It's about to be 3 in the morning. Join us Monday for the trial, 11 a.m. Eastern, I believe, where we're going to learn more about the story as we go. I'd like to learn a lot more about Gannon. And this was like the introductory, which has a lot of information for the trial. Thank you guys so much for supporting me, watching the video. Please hit like, subscribe, turn on the bell with notifications. See you Monday.